Alright, today I'm going to be demonstrating my new cleanup station. I found that using my ribbed mat cleanup sluices was taking too long. I also tried a Cali bucket sluice, and I found that the fines were circulating out of the sluice into the bucket if I ran them too fast, and I didn't like feeding things by the tablespoon. I hate cleaning up cons, and so this is my solution. What we have here is a self-contained bucket, and it's quite large. The cons will be dumping into this other bucket, and that's another key thing. I want to be able to pack everything up, including that bucket over there with my other accessories, and put it away and never see it again until I need it again. So this system has a large drop riffle cleanup sluice, a smaller drop riffle cleanup sluice, but it is extended here. You can see how it's been extended. And then the system is also interchangeable with a miller table so that I can take the concentrates and further refine them. So inside here you can see there'll be some pumps, and I can run multiple pumps at any given time. Also, having two systems allows me to classify even less and run bulk material down here and then further fines down here, and then ultimately to the last piece on the green table. So what you're seeing here is just some of the pumps that I'm using in my system. This is a 600 gallon per hour pump, and you can see it. I have a bracket here to go onto my table, and I have a 1500 gallon per hour pump to run the bigger sluice. All my pumps run off inverters. I have a small one here for the 600 and a larger one for the 1500 that draws about 8 amps. I find that using batteries, trickle chargers, I'm always lugging around heavy equipment that doesn't have enough power, and the convenient power of an outlet has been really beneficial and saved a lot of time. So I have tons of fittings. I shouldn't run into any problems, but you know you're always missing the one you need. I can also add a small hose to wash out if required. So I'm going to begin the assembly and turn it on. So one of the things that I had to do here was outfit this with a new fitting. I just couldn't fit enough water through the small fitting that came with it. I realized that this common fitting for garden hoses and just run-of-the-mill pump accessories is very convenient, but it does not have enough water flow to drive this system. I also replaced this one, and I'll show you some still pictures of what it was before. So changing this has been hugely beneficial to the amount of required water flow that I need to run this efficiently. These drop riffles fill up so quickly and take so much water that it simply wasn't working. The only thing that was happening was that the large pump going through a small hole was creating pressure and forcing material out instead of having the water strip it away. So I have two buckets to run today from two different spots. One's bank run and one's a gravel bar in the middle of the river. And as mentioned, one of the things that I really hated doing with my concentrates was classification and trying to spoon feed things into either a rib mat sluice or a cleanup sluice of some type. And so I'm only going to be classifying to 1/4 inch today, and I'm going to run both material down the bigger cleanup sluice to see what happens, and hopefully I capture more fines in the first 4 rather than having to transition everything to the second sluice. So you can see here I have tons of room here that I can run my second sluice or miller table if I want to. Also, this piece down here is on a slider, so it will go up and down, so I can adjust the velocity. And I have a small ball valve here just to control some of the flow. I tried to eliminate as many 90s as I could, and you can see I have just a hose running through there. I found that the 90s created too much restriction. Hopefully I don't have any problems with material coming over the side into here and sullying up my pump. And I'm ready to fill it with water, add some jet dry, and begin bulk loading some material. So I'm going to turn this on now so you can see the water flow. And that's about half capacity. And that's full capacity. You can see how much water is required to fill those riffles. And even once the water drains out, it's still fairly full inside the drop riffles. I'm going to add some material, of the bigger material, see what happens. So I started feeding the sluice, and I'm just going to feed the whole pail in, because that's my goal, is to not have to feed. And what I'm going to do then is just dump the sluice out into a pan and see what I captured. And I'll do a few runs here for you. And this is pretty aggressive. I'm not letting much time, but the riffles are clearing out. And I'm sure there's some gold getting by, but this is the first run at it. And I'm hoping to dump this whole 1/5 of a bucket through here, if I'm not filming, in about 10 to 15 minutes. Best case is some of the coarse gold is trapped higher up with some flour gold or flood gold, and then lower down, and we'll take some time to inspect every riffle. So I loaded the whole bucket in here in about 10 minutes, and it's cleaning out right now. You can see the first riffles. I'm sorry that water's moving so fast you can't get a good shot of everything. But that's what I had planned. A quick cleanup, and I also noticed in here on these little dimples there is flour gold gathering in behind them, but I suspect as I slow the water down it's going to drop off. And let's get a pan out and see what it is. So I'm going to try and get a shot of some of these dimples. See if you can see the flour gold. There's a little bit that's piled up in the corner there. And all in these dimples. You see it right in behind the dimples? It's kind of yellow. Little flour golds in there. Now when I start to look at the riffles, you know, they've packed up a little bit with some black sands, and I've swooshed up my finger around with the gold. And so what we've done is cleaned out the very first riffle with a snuffer bottle and put it into a pan. You can see here I've left these other ones. I want to see how much gold is making it down, and there's still gold that is in behind these little nipples here, but I'm going after the drop riffle right away. So here's the gold from the second drop riffle. It's looking pretty good. I still don't see any bigger pieces. Okay, I'm going to vacuum up the fourth one here, and we're still seeing what comes out of the fourth one. And these ones haven't been cleaned, but we'll probably just dump it straight into the pan and see what comes out of those. And there's the gold from the fourth riffle. So there is less, which is good, but it's still there. So we're going to dump the last bit into the pan and see what comes out of 5, 6, 7, and 8. So the first 4 are cleaned and the last 4 are to go. And I still haven't taken the stuff off the top there, but I'll not include that in the pan from the bottom. So that's the gold from the last 4 riffles. So it looks to be about the same amount as what was in some of the first few, but it is from all 4. It's not bad, so obviously some was making it past, and this is why I have the second drop riffle sluice to classify this material down to maybe -20 and lower and run it through the smaller system with fewer large rocks. That's the gold that come out of all the little dimples at the top of the sluice. I'm actually quite impressed that it held it that much. I'll just move back a little bit so you can see in the pan, and very impressive. Now what we're going to do is pan the losses out that were, or the tailings from that high power run. I'm going to take a picture here for you. All right, panning down the tailings from that run, and we'll see what they yield here in a second. So this is from the tailing pile, and this is what the sluice captured. This is a little bit misleading because it's piled up a bit. There's a lot more here, a lot more. You can see me move it around with my fingers a bit. And that's the totals, and that was pretty fast. That was only a 10-minute run. So on the next bucket, what we're going to do is we're going to move this to the secondary sluice to see if we can get this without going through a panning exercise. Set up the second miniature drop riffle sluice, and I'm using the smaller pump. I'll put the hopper up here in a minute, and the plan is to take those tailings, screen them to -20, since all the big gold should have been taken out already. It would have fallen off in the first few riffles of that other system, and then run it down here really fast and see what comes out of these. And this additional section is just for the small gold that's flipping all the way down. And here's a long shot of this extended sluice doing its job here. And just another reminder, these wires go to an inverter right into the wall. So if you're still with us here, this would have been screened to -20 now. So this is everything bigger. Everything smaller is in here. And this would be run down the secondary, smaller drop riffle sluice. So assuming I got all the bigger gold out of the bigger drop riffle sluice, this should go through pretty quickly. Okay, so here's an example of moving the material down these mini riffles. You can see how fast it goes. Goes right through there. And if I wasn't filming, I'd be dumping it in. So while you watch away, my theory's holding true that I can capture the majority of the gold in the bigger sluice, and then using this as a secondary after I've screened it down. What you can see is it captured a little bit of black sand, but look at all the purple garnets that it captured all the way down. More black sand, garnets, garnets, black sand. So it did a really good job of the separation, and then I think it should hold most of the gold if it was used as a secondary cleanup sluice. And I was able to process that bucket really fast, just a few minutes. So I'm quite happy, and I'll zoom in here and look at some of those garnets that have been captured here. Some really nice stuff in there. So I'm convinced if I took this and then ran it down a miller table, I would pick up anything that I've lost. Excellent, and I'm really pleased with the length. Absolutely, it's made a big difference having it longer. Alright, I'm just doing a water change here. I dumped some of it out, and I see there's quite a bit of material that my pumps are sucking up. So I'm going to have to find a better solution for my bucket at the end, and I can work on that. It's not a big deal, to eliminate the sand from going from the bucket back into where my central water source is. I'll fix that for next time. So I cleaned my basin out, and I think my problem is actually this thing. It's just not deep enough. Once I run a half pail of, or a 5-gallon bucket through it, it fills right up. So maybe the solution is just getting a tub that's, you know, a little bit deeper, so that I can drill some holes in here, and the water can go out the holes and allow the dirt more time to settle. All right, I'm going to run the second pail now through the bigger sluice. You can see here how it's starting to pollute this water as it spills on over. Like I said, I'm going to fix that. But it's looking good already. Okay, I'm going to go and run the whole bucket now. I'll be back in a minute. And what I'm doing is I'm letting it clean out, and look at it, the active exchange in there, moving the lighter particles down the sluice. I'll try and give you a few more angles. And it's cleaning out nicely all the way down. I just hope I don't find too much in here. And there's about this much left. I maybe have, well, there's the bottom, so about 2 inches. Here's something to look at. So the gold is at the top of the riffle. Now normally it wouldn't do that, it'd be down in here. It's a good example of when you slam on the brakes and it blew it forward. And then again it blew it forward. And that's probably the gold that blew forward as it was stuck in here. But you can see what came out of that first riffle there. There's quite a bit. So I'm going to wash some of the gold down, and you can see what's coming out of it. So wash some of it down. You can see that gold moving down. And we're moving it into this pan down here. But it captured a tremendous amount of flour gold, which I like to see because I don't want to have to run the secondary drop riffle sluice if I don't have to. So this is panning down the concentrates from the big drop riffle sluice, first run. Alright, these are the tailings. I'm going to screen them through a -20 and then run them down the mini. Okay, this is all the material that I classified. Now this material actually went through the big drop riffle sluice. And now you see why it's important, because of the bigger pieces of gold that I found that normally wouldn't fit through a screen. They are bigger than that mesh. So I would have lost them if I had screened smaller than that size. So what's below this is everything -20 and smaller, and I'm going to run it down the secondary sluice now. I'm going to process it just as fast. I'm going to go all the way, do the whole bucket that remains. You can see there's about that much in there. It's a little bit deeper, and see what comes out of it. So here's a few shots of feeding it. I do a bit better job when I'm not holding the camera. There's a little picture feeding it these -20 cons. Clears out pretty quick. Alright, the entire bucket has been loaded into here, and you can see the black sand. And I'm hoping this captured whatever the bigger system missed. And I loaded it pretty fast, off camera, 5 minutes, and that's the whole point of doing this. So I'm going to dump all of this into a pan and see what it looks like. Okay, so I shut it down, and I can see flour gold that's made it all the way down, and it starts to taper off here, and the last of it ends about here. So it's the length of this second mini is definitely working, and I'll switch to macro and show you a little bit. That's the very first riffle. You can see a little bit in the left-hand corner. And you can see some more there. Some more little bright yellow specks. This is 3/4 of the way down to the first section. And this is halfway into the next section. And then this is the very end, and you can see there's nothing left down there. So the additional length does help. Okay, so this is from the miniature, and quite a bit came out there, so I'm really happy with that. And this is almost as important to me I pack it all up in one tub, and I have my secondary over here that I'll straighten out later, and it all fits on the shelf in my garage. Done. So thanks for watching, and see you next time. Add me to your favorites.